Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to tell you about a podcast that I love and that I think can help us understand this moment in abortion care. Hosted by Dahlia Lithwick, Slate's Amicus podcast is all about the Supreme Court and the law, but you don't have to be a constitutional lawyer to listen to it. And actually, last week, I had the pleasure of talking with Dahlia as a guest on the show. Here's Dahlia.
Thanks, Allie. On Amicus, we have this basic guiding principle that knowledge is power, and that even, or perhaps especially, an opaque and lofty institution like the U.S. Supreme Court could do with more people understanding where its decisions come from and what those decisions can mean for the rest of us, the American public. Because as the 6-3 supermajority conservative court has shown, those decisions reach into every single corner of our lives, and they reach ever further into the lives of healthcare workers. So find us on Saturdays wherever you listen to your podcasts. It's Amicus, that's A-M-I-C-U-S, from the Latin, your friend, with me, Dahlia Lithwick, looking forward to talking to you.
At the Nocturnists, we are careful to ensure that all stories comply with healthcare privacy laws. Details may have been changed to ensure patient confidentiality. All views expressed are those of the person speaking and not their employer.
You're listening to The Nocturnists, Post-Roe America. I'm Dr. Allie Block. It was the winter of 2022 the first time I flew out to Wichita, Kansas. I'd been an attending in California for 8 years and a first trimester abortion provider for over a decade. But I wanted to learn second trimester abortions, both because I was moving to a new part of the country that needed second trimester providers, and also because I knew the Dobbs decision was coming. And I worried that soon a lot of women wouldn't be able to get their abortions in the first trimester. So I went to Trust Women, one of the highest volume abortion clinics in the country, not as an attending, but as a 40-year-old medical trainee. I never thought Wichita would become such a big part of my life, somewhere I probably couldn't have pointed to on a map before I visited. But after I got the skills I needed, I kept going back as one of the clinic providers. Each time I returned, the staff was facing some fresh new crisis. First SB 8, then the Oklahoma ban, then Dobbs. Patients from hundreds of miles away were streaming to Wichita, and the clinic was scrambling to accommodate the rush. Today you'll join me on one of my bi-monthly trips to Kansas. We'll take you inside the clinic so you can see firsthand what happens when a small-town clinic suddenly has to absorb the reproductive health needs for a vast swath of the country.
Do you have caffeine and everything that you require for starting your morning?
This is Dr. Christina Bourne. We used to work together in California, and she was my original connection to Trust Women.
Really? Yeah. I've never been chased by so many stray dogs in my life as I have in Wichita. Yeah, my name is Christina Bourne. My title is I'm our medical director. And kind of what that means is to make sure that we are meeting medical care standards and guidelines and staying medically afloat.
Christina says the job looks pretty different now than she thought it would when she first got offered the position back in 2021.
And I was like, sure, it'll be a pretty chill job. I'll take it on for a year. This was July 2021, so right before SB 8 LOL. At that point, it's hard to think about what the impact was going to be. So, Texas was chugging along at 55,000 abortions a year. And then to say nobody in Texas can get abortion access past 6 weeks. It's where are these, 50,000 people going to go? Our phones literally blew up. We had to, invest in more staff, a whole new phone system, really think about what our role in this geopolitical crisis was going to be. How much could we bite off? How much did we feel was our responsibility as a very small nonprofit independent abortion clinic?
Through SB 8 and Dobbs, Christina was the only doctor working at Trust Women that lived in Wichita full-time. Most of the nurses and support staff are local like her, but the physicians who actually perform the abortions mostly fly in from out of state. It can be hard to find local providers with the skills and willingness to provide abortions in more conservative states like Kansas. So it's common for clinics in places like this to fly in doctors for a few days at a time to staff the clinics. Doctors like me. This makes Christina's role as medical director pivotal. If a patient comes in with a placenta I'm concerned about, I call Christina She's the only one who knows how to coordinate with the local imaging center for an urgent formal ultrasound so we can offer the patient a procedure that day. Things don't work in Kansas the way they do back home. So Christina's expertise makes her the linchpin for flying doctors that trust women.
It's a tough thing, especially when most folks are flying in from very pro-abortion states. People just aren't used to working in hostile places. Outpatient physicians are used to certain levels of hospital backup and kind of a more robust infrastructure.
The overwhelming majority of our doctors are traveling from other places. And that's in large part just due to the stigma and violence that's associated with providing abortions in this region of the country.
That's Zack Gingrich Gaylord. He's the communications director at Trust Women. He's an affable anarchist with a big beard and huge Kansas pride.
Well, I grew up in Wichita. My parents were both organizers and activists in different ways.
As a kid in the 90s, he had a front row seat to the fight around abortion rights that took place at Dr. George Tiller's clinic, a fight that got national news coverage. This was the same clinic that would eventually become Trust Women.
Dr. Tiller was one of the few providers in the country that would do abortions later in pregnancy. There was a summer that anti-abortion activists, descended on Wichita and had massive protests at the clinic. There was also plenty of violence, vandalism, with some arson and then flooding. So there was, a lot of attention on Dr. Tiller and the clinic during that time.
On May 31st, 2009, Dr. Tiller was assassinated in Wichita, outside his local church, by anti-abortion activists. I was a third-year medical student in California at the time, and I remember hearing the news and seeing how much it impacted the family planning community. Trust Women started a few years later, in 2013, in direct response to Tiller's assassination. It was the only abortion clinic in Wichita when it opened. Trust Women still practices out of this building today. The Trust Women building is off the highway behind huge concrete walls. They're completely nondescript. 25 feet of gray concrete. You only know it's there because of an old sign with their logo, an infinity symbol.
Oh yeah, this guy's always here. That guy. So there's 3 antis sitting at a table with the giant decapitated fetus fan.
The first time I drove up, I wasn't surprised to see a few protesters. There always are, at every abortion clinic I've worked in. But the giant truck with the picture of an ISIS beheading, alongside some pictures of bloody fetuses, that was new to me.
That guy is there a lot. I really don't know who that guy is in particular, but yesterday, there was one particularly hostile extremist out there, and I was he's been rolling around more.
When you walk in, you go past the security guy.
Hey, what's up, Bo?
And the metal detectors, which are not standard issue at clinics where I've worked in other parts of the country. There are some key card access doors. You can go straight into the waiting room if you're a patient, or into the back, a labyrinth of hallways and locked doors, which leads you to where the medical staff hangs out.
Yeah, the morning is always pretty calm here.
Kate, one of the nurses here, is prepping for the day by filling syringes with lidocaine, which is used for numbing patients' cervixes before procedures.
The morning is the stressful part of the day for the front desk staff, and it's chill for us back here, and then it kind of switches around 11 a.m. or so, noon. It starts getting really crazy back here, and it chills out up front. We'll probably be doing between 15 and 20 procedures today, depending on how many people show up. So in the morning, it's the quiet before the storm, and then they all arrive in a horde.
On the other side of the hall, Catalina, one of the medical assistants, is prepping the procedure rooms.
You can follow me. We're just kind of setting the OR rooms right now. Yeah. See if I can get this door open. Yep. Thank you so much. So setting up, just making sure that we connect all our machines, get everything ready, set up the basics for the day.
On a day like today, I'm usually there with another doctor from out of state and a handful of nurses, medical assistants, and other staff. We'll see anywhere from 30 to 60 patients, about 20 to 30 for medication abortions who receive a pill and pass their pregnancy at home, and 15 to 25 for surgical abortions. These days, about a third to half of our surgical abortions are D&Es, procedures for people 14 weeks and beyond. At the clinics where I've worked in blue states, there are at most 1 or 2 second trimester cases a day. At Trust Women, the rates of later procedures are much higher because of all the delays patients experience in accessing care. The back area of the clinic is where we're hanging out all day charting, seeing patients, and drinking coffee. There's a small lab for patients to get their hemoglobin levels checked and other lab tests, 2 curtain-off areas for ultrasounds, and a central counter where all the clinicians buzz around and shuttle patients from one area to another.
I'm usually the gal that they call anytime we have a patient that's very high anxiety or needs more emotional support.
This is Catalina again.
I'm the best hand holder you'll find here at the clinic, I want to say. So they usually always call me to come in here. They're like, Kat, we need you in OR1. And I'm like, I'm on it. And I just kind of coach patients through their breathing, reassuring everything is safe, everything is okay, making sure that they feel at ease. You'll usually get very high blood pressures because of the nervousness, the anxiousness. I do have a lot of patients that, also come in very shut down, don't really want to talk or anything. Then once their procedure's over, it's just a flood of tears because of the relief. And the thing that I've learned is not like everybody comes in mad or not wanting to talk. It's just they're carrying so much. And then you'll see that after their procedure's over, that they're just like...
This is what makes Catalina so upset about the anti-abortion protesters outside the clinic.
There's patients that when I do their intake, that they're like, oh, yes, they were clinging onto my car, or they're scared because they take pictures and they're from Texas and they're afraid that they're going to get reported. So it's these patients just come in already, their mind's so full, and then they have to deal with the protesters and the harassment that they get from them. I always want to go back home. I just want to make it safe through the day, help patients, and get home safely. To my cat and my daughter, my husband. Yes. She is 7. She just tells me, be safe, mommy, because there have been times where my husband has had to bring me to work with my daughter. And I just tell her, cover your eyes. There's just an ugly truck outside. Once we get onto the parking lot, you can open them, just to try to protect her from seeing those graphic images. Yeah.
The morning is pretty quiet, with everyone taking care of their own tasks, until the morning huddle with all the medical staff.
All right, we're going to huddle, everybody.
Right. At 9:30, we do a team huddle and just start to talk about some of our cases that might be harder, maybe I'm concerned about, and do like a little bit of brief teaching, like, why do I care that this person's had 5 C-sections? Why do I care that this person has a history of an ectopic pregnancy? Things like that. People in this region are not young and healthy, quote unquote. As most people kind of view abortion care, these are Medicaid non-expand states. These are states that experience a severe amount of systemic disenfranchisement and the ramifications of a racist society. So people have a lot going on medically.
Ever since SB 8 and now Dobbs, morning huddle has been even more important than it used to be. Trust Women staff is operating at near full capacity every day, and so the efficiency of their systems are paramount. On top of this, patients are traveling farther than ever to get there, up to 10 or 11 hours each way. Follow-up appointments are no longer an easy option. At this point, the clinic staff operate like a finely tuned orchestra. And while the doctors like me and Christina are there to provide abortions and offer our clinical expertise, the conductor of this whole show is Ashley, the clinic director.
I'm one of those people that's like, I love to complete a task and then I'm like, okay, check it off. I did it. And running an abortion clinic is a never ending, fix one problem, 3 more pop up.
Ashley grew up in Kansas and worked at Trust Women from 2013 to 2016, right after the clinic first opened. Their office is papered floor to ceiling with pro-choice posters, and on any given day, they'll be in their usual uniform, a pro-abortion t-shirt and scrub pants. When they got offered the job as clinic director, they were living in Colorado and working at a Planned Parenthood.
I had no intentions of ever moving back to Kansas. My partner got into law school in Kansas, and I was like, okay, have fun at law school. I'll be in Denver. I'll see you on the holidays. And a month before he left for school, one of our executive directors who I worked with when I worked here previously called and said, what are you doing? And do you want to be my clinic director in Wichita? We had just re-signed our lease. I had no intentions of leaving. For me, when your community asks for help, when your community calls you back, you have to do it.
That was 2 months before SB8. So like Christina, Ashley arrived just as things were blowing up. They didn't feel prepared.
We had no staff when I came in. Now it's huge, but yeah, I had to do what I had to do to get us through those days. They were dark days.
And then 9 months later, Roe fell.
Yeah. I was like, this is the thing we've been talking about. This is the thing we've been fearing for the years and years, since I started doing this work. And it was coming, and it came. I had 2 staff members in my office, and I was just like, okay, y'all. And we had patients that day. We had patients in the building. And I walked out and told the staff, I was like, hey, take the time you need right now. This doesn't change what we're doing today. And we put all of our energy into seeing the patients that were in our building.
And at that point, Trust Women only had 6 staff members, and only a few were full-time. It was one of 2 abortion clinics in Wichita, one of 5 in Kansas. And Kansas had suddenly become the only state among a sea of red states in which abortion was legal. Ashley knew they needed to jump into action immediately.
Thankfully, I have a lot of friends in the movement, sadly, that work at clinics that can't operate and provide abortions anymore. And so they've been able to give us some of their medications or equipment and such. I was like, is it too soon to text? Can I have your shit? Sorry about what happened. And can you help us? Can we have some of your stuff? The number of patients we're seeing is more than we've ever seen before. It used to be maybe 150 patients a month, 200 maybe was a lot, and we're over 500 pretty consistently now. Before, they were all from Kansas with a trickle from surrounding states, and now 2/3 are from Texas with a smattering from all the other southern states, and we might get less than 100 patients from Kansas a month now, 80. And we're in Kansas, so where are they going? To Colorado, Illinois, when some of them probably just live right down the street from this clinic and they have to go to another state because they can't get an appointment here.
And how many weeks are you showing them? 4 weeks. So you're 6 weeks exactly today? Wednesday? Okay.
Every patient who comes through Trust Women has to first make an appointment over the phone. The call center is a small room with a couple phones and 2 people sitting at desks answering them. In the corner, a kid home from school plays on an iPad. The lines are always busy. They put the rings on silent to help with the noise, but on each phone, there's 4 red lights that constantly blink, which says there's always someone else on the other 4 lines.
Of course. Yes, ma'am. The 14th of February at 12 p.m. Of course, you have a good one. Bye-bye.
Is it a really busy day on phones?
Not too crazy. Usually I've seen busier days, but today is pretty steady, which is nice.
It's the red is constantly going.
Yeah, for sure. But usually I believe our director said that we get about 16,000 calls per day. So that's fun. But we definitely try our best. The sound is very low on these phones, but I can still hear it in the back of my head sometimes, so that's fun.
You can hear it?
Sometimes. Trust Woman, how can I help you? Sí, ¿cómo lo puedo ayudar?
We know that we're meeting a need, we're not meeting the need.
I had 6 to 8 staff members. Some were part-time and some were full-time. And now we're up to 23 or 24 staff members. So we've tripled the staff, but
16,000. I don't have the staff for that. No one has the staff for that. I need a bigger building. I need a bigger parking lot. We've had to get more seating in our building because there weren't enough chairs. It's just I every time I brought on new staff, I'm now I don't have enough computers. Now I don't have enough desks. So people were sharing, we don't have enough phones. It's just nothing is ever, it feels like nothing is ever enough.
And then this is our admin up here.
This is Zack again.
So they just check in all the patients, answer phones. Oh, sorry.
By midday, patients from all around the country are arriving. Insurance and Medicaid are banned from covering the cost of abortion care in Kansas, except in very limited circumstances. So like so many clinics across the country, Trust Women relies on independent abortion funds to cover costs for patients who aren't able to pay themselves. This requires constant behind-the-scenes fundraising, not just to make sure that patients can get affordable abortions, but also to ensure that everyone at Trust Women gets paid a fair wage. After patients check in, they make their way to the first of 3 waiting rooms. Each one is intended for patients at a different step in the day. Yet another example of the systems designed to accommodate as many patients as possible. Each room is decorated with encouraging posters, free snacks, and aromatherapy sticks.
We have the 3rd waiting room. Pleasant music.
Yeah, this is so sweet.
Yeah, we're looking at a TV with a fish on it.
The Trust Women staff have done their best to create a refuge from the storm beyond their walls, but the push and pull of state regulations still finds its way in.
When you come back here, you get a consult, and then you'll go to the first waiting room we saw. You have an ultrasound, and at that point, you have to wait half an hour before any procedure or getting your medication. That half an hour is state decided that you needed some time to really marinate on it.
Abortion is banned in Kansas after 22 weeks. Patients have to wait 24 hours after an initial counseling session before undergoing a procedure, and then again for 30 minutes after their ultrasound. On top of this, Trust Women is seeing more complicated cases, like second trimester abortions for people who weren't able to get care in their own states, and so are accessing care weeks, if not months, past when they normally would have. In clinics where I've worked in less restricted states, when a pregnant person with a complex medical history shows up, there's a pretty low threshold to refer them out to a higher level of care. Maybe there's someone in their second trimester with a history of C-sections, or they have anemia with a low blood level, or even just someone with diabetes on insulin. All of these conditions can pose a slightly higher risk in the procedure, so when there's a major medical center with resources nearby, it's easier just to refer them out. In Kansas, there's nowhere else to go. So the Trust Women staff need to make a judgment call. Go ahead with the procedure if it feels safe, or turn the patient away, knowing that they may not be able to access the care they're seeking without a long, expensive journey to a less restricted state. All of this against a backdrop of a building that has definitely seen better days.
I feel like every day is a new thing. There have been times I've walked in and there's truly in this hallway, this toilet overflowing and water on the floor. I've come in and there just been tiles that have broken because there was a small pinhole leak in a pipe that was leaking through the wall. You can't make it up. It's just it's old. And so just like any old building, it has things that need to be fixed and updated and, things break, like heaters.
And sure, that stuff is to be expected. But it's so much harder when you're an abortion clinic in a hostile environment. I mean,
we've been through almost every plumber in town, every electrician. A lot of times the protesters will harass them coming in and out. And if they have their logo on their truck, then sometimes the protesters will call their place of business and just, why are you working at the abortion clinic? They'll just harass those contractors. And some of them just won't work with us anymore. And not because they don't believe in what we do. Sometimes that's what it is, but it's because they don't want to keep getting harassed. They don't want phone calls and their staff to get harassed, which I get. And also we deal with that every day. We've even had Uber drivers refuse to pick patients up here. We've had DoorDash refuse to deliver here. They've had to send it back and get another delivery person to deliver it. I remember when I used to work here before, there was one food place in town that would deliver to us, and it was Jimmy John's. No one else would. Pizza Hut, it didn't matter. No one would deliver to us. It was Jimmy John's. So we all ate a lot of Jimmy John's for a long time. Jimmy John's every day, all day, every day. I'll never eat it again.
Honestly, after the security trainings, the constant heckling from anti-abortion protesters, and daily stories from the staff about how their jobs impact their personal lives, it can sometimes feel like a fluke that abortion care is still legal at all in Kansas.
Kansas currently has a fairly robust protection for abortion care in our state constitution, and that was decided by the court case Hodes Nauser versus Schmidt.
The 2019 decision was made based on an arcane constitutional article written back in 1861.
In the state constitution, Kansans have a right to bodily autonomy, and they viewed that as also a right to abortion care. So it's very difficult for the legislature to pass or enact new restrictions on abortion care.
That means that the most limiting and restrictive trap laws can't take hold in Kansas, and the right to abortion remains protected, for now. But it's also created trust women as an unlikely and under-resourced abortion care haven, wholly depended upon while also antagonized and attacked by the very community they serve. Against this backdrop, the Trust Women staff have needed to figure out how to respond to an unprecedented change in how they do their work. As part of this process, they've needed to have some tough conversations.
We, as a team, decided that we would never prioritize anyone's abortion over another. In this movement, there's been a lot of judgment placed on the validation of whose abortion is more important, whose abortion is more valid or morally just, and we're not in the business to do that. And so our policy became really first come, first serve. Even with that policy, we know that the people who are still going to be able to get appointments are the people who can afford to call and redial and redial and redial. They have a friend and a parent and a partner who can call and call and call at the same time for them. You know, the people with privilege are still going to be the people who are getting appointments over others because they're not working. Ooh, sorry, 1 second.
Some of the protesters came into the parking lot. They followed a car in here. I just got a phone with the police.
That's the security guy, Bo.
But I'm gonna go ahead and ask him to wait somewhere else as well.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
But
I'll come out and we'll game plan.
Okay. I'm gonna have that guy leave.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Bo. Oh, hold on. No, 1 second. Yes? Sorry. You're okay.
He's here. Oh, you're FaceTiming me. I started crying.
Oh, nephew. Okay, I am finishing up a call. I will come talk to you in a minute. I love you, Madison. Her nephew just got born, so she's like, I'm crying. I was like, okay, I'll be out in a minute.
Part of the clinic's response to Dobbs has been the policies and systems they've put in place. But maybe a bigger part has been a massive internal culture shift.
Because you cannot solve it, that almost means you can do it in the way that works for you. You know, if it doesn't do us any good to do abortions 24 hours a day for 2 weeks, if that means all our staff quits in 2 weeks.
We used to not cap our schedule at all, so we would have 2 days a week where we just kind of went balls to the wall, for lack of a better phrase.
Carissa, a medical assistant at Trust Women, has been here for 4.5 years and remembers intimately how things used to be.
60, 70, 80 patients on the schedule, and would just blindly go in and do what needed to be done. And we would leave whenever we were done, sometimes 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and have to come back again the next day and do it all over again. I would be the only person in the room with the doctor doing the procedures. I would chart vitals with my right hand, and I would scan with ultrasound with my left hand.
Over the past 2 years, the Trust Women staff have been undergoing a process of radically rewriting the narrative around how an abortion clinic can run. They cap the number of patients they see in a day, increase the number of staff, all decisions made not by the doctors who work here or by Ashley, but by the staff themselves.
Our whole thing is to dismantle hierarchies, and like the people that I'm their bosses of truly are the ones that like trained me, that know who I am as a person, know who I am as a provider. And I don't feel any sense of being somebody's like boss or anything like that. Like I know the providers that work here are super solid, super good. And we've cultivated a really sweet and like precious community here. It's really cool kind of being in our clinic. It is like a whole organism. Like we all like work and function so well together.
At the heart of this culture shift is Ashley, the clinic manager.
When I was asked to come back and like manage this clinic, that was my goal, to be able to foster a workplace that how do you manage under capitalism? Like, ew. But like doing the best that I can to like foster a place that people truly enjoyed being in.
She also just knows the ins and outs of the clinic. Like, she could do pretty much everybody's role other than like performing the abortion herself. But like every other part of the job she's had to do at one point or another. She knows how to clean the lab, chart the vital signs. Pretty much every aspect of the job.
Here's Kate again.
Feels like she really understands what we're going through. Like when we have a super busy or stressful day and we're like, oh my gosh, Ashley, this, that, or the other thing, like this is what could have made the day better. She understands that.
I can't tell you enough how different Trust Women is from any other clinic I've worked at. Healthcare is an incredibly hierarchical field, and abortion care is no different. That means in most places I've worked, the physicians are at the top of the ladder, despite the fact that we're often the ones in the room who are there the least. It's not uncommon for abortion providers to work 1 or 2 days a week, or even per month. The staff, on the other hand, the nurses, the medical assistants, the front desk, the people who show up every day are expected to live by whatever decisions the physicians or higher-ups make about how the clinic should run. At Trust Women, it doesn't work that way. When there's a decision to be made, the staff makes it. As a fly-in doctor, I'm a guest in their workplace, working according to the systems they design. The difference is palpable. People are less burnt out. The relationships among the staff at the clinic are incredibly close. Things don't simmer under the surface. This intentional culture shift started before the fall of Roe, but it feels like it's been a central part of what's allowed the clinic to keep operating since then. And the reality of being an abortion provider, especially in a restrictive state, is that the hits just keep coming.
Right now, we're dealing with the possible banning of mifepristone. Just like anything in abortion care, we're having to overnight pivot and figure out what our alternative to using mifepristone is. So we've been meeting with attorneys and meeting as group to determine what we're going to do alternatively if that happens, when that happens. And then we have to have a staff in service about the change in protocol. I'm definitely back in my, I went through a dark 3 to 6 month period where I was crying almost every day at my desk. And the staff be like, who's going to make Ashley cry today? None of them make me cry. It's the weight of everything. But I think this last week has been kind of like that. I've noticed I've cried every day and I'm oh no, what's going on? Where are we back here again? So it's fine. Like I said, the staff, we all take care of each other. We all go through the days, or weeks or months where we're pushing through.
By 6 o'clock, there are only a few people left in the clinic, a couple patients in recovery, and a few staff wrapping things up. Dana, one of the nurses, is making sure everything is ready for the next day.
How was your day?
I came in later than everyone else. I came in at 10. Yeah. So it was kind of chaotic for me because I just got thrown in. It's everybody's everybody else was on go mode and I got in and they're on go mode and I have to get up to their speed right now. And I'm I need some time. But it was good though. Yeah. It was good. Just get stuff done and go home and come back and do it again tomorrow.
This work isn't easy on so many levels. But underneath the noise, the protesters, the trap laws, the political infighting and stigma, abortion care is incredibly special work. Dana says at the end of the day, this is what keeps her going.
I love, and this is the thing with me, I also worked in correctional nursing. I love to take care of the people that nobody wants to take care of. I want to take care of the people that everybody is regular, normal people don't treat right. I want to make sure that person gets treated with dignity when they come to see us or when they come to see me anywhere I'm working. People need to be treated with dignity, no matter who they are, what background, any of that stuff. None of that matters. And here, it's such a personal and emotional thing for them to be here. So you just want to be the best nurse you can be for them, or just the best person you can be for them so they feel comfortable and they don't feel bad about the choices they made. I mean, that's, something I can't control. But I can sit them in the chair, I can try to make them laugh, I can get them juice, I can get them cookies, baby them a little before they leave, and make them feel warm and fuzzy. So that's what I like to do.
At the end of her shift, we took Dana into one of the waiting rooms. She almost never goes in there, she told us, because she's usually in the back helping with procedures. But we wanted to show her something we thought she'd enjoy. On the wall, there's a pin board with handwritten notes from patients.
I don't come in here enough and I don't get to read them.
There's a sign that says, leave one, take one.
You are powerful. You are loved. Stay true to yourself. Love yourself no matter what. Love. Anonymous name person. Oh, wonderful. I've never read these. Okay. Everyone is so kind and made me feel very comfortable. I love healthcare providers that are genuinely concerned, and it was every single one of you guys. Thank you. God bless. And that makes me happy. God, you are beautiful. But I guess the concept is you can take a note or you can leave one. Or you can do both. You got this. Breathe. Don't feel ashamed. Your body, your choice. Remember to love yourself and surround yourself with those who love and support you. So it's like they're affirmations, beautiful affirmations. And thank you and gratitude.
The Nocturnist Post-Roe America was created by me, Allie Block, and Emily Silverman. Our lead producer was Molly Rose Williams, and our producers were Sam Osborne and Jessica Young. John Oliver helped with the mixing, and Carly Besser assistant produced. Thanks to medical student producers Anjali Walia, Dahlia Kaki, Fiona Miller, and Milky Mahari, and pre-health intern Treya Tompkins. Our chief operating officer is Rebecca Groves. The series illustrations are by Nicole Zhu. The Nocturnist theme music is by Yosef Monroe, and all additional music comes from Blue Dot Sessions. The Nocturnist Post-Roe America series was made possible in part by the Josiah Macy Jr. Foundation. The Nocturnist is supported by the California Medical Association, a physician-led organization that works tirelessly to make sure that the doctor-patient relationship remains at the center of medicine. To learn more about the CMA, visit cmadocs.org. Our show is also made possible with donations from listeners like you. Thank you for supporting our work in storytelling. If you enjoy our show, please follow us in your favorite podcast app so you don't miss an episode. You can also help others find us by telling your friends and colleagues, posting this episode on social media, and leaving us a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. To contribute your voice to an upcoming project or to support our work with a donation, visit our website at thenocturnist.com. You can also find resources with more information about the state of abortion in the U.S., as well as ways to advocate and get involved at the series website. I'm your host, Allie Block. See you next week.